Okay, we are live. Welcome everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for our one of our May GHAIN events. And we are incredibly excited today to welcome none other than Anna Scott to join us. So thank you so much, Anna, for spending some time with us today and giving us a wealth of your information.
Thanks so much, Alex, for inviting me and for this great opportunity to speak to your group. So very pleased to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So doing a quick introduction on Anna. So Anna, together with her husband, Doug, have been investing in real estate since the spring of 2015. The first purchase was an 8-unit building that they continue to own and property manage themselves. They focus on long-term buy and hold multifamily properties as passive joint venture money partners and have accumulated 7 additional multifamily buildings, 33 units in total, which is very impressive. These are communities within southwestern Ontario. They are part owners of 2 other buildings for a total of 61 units. Very cool. So they have done multiple private lending deals and used their RRSPs and TFSAs to invest in a number of real estate transactions, including private mortgages and land development opportunities. They are now full-time real estate investors, having retired from their day jobs in the financial service and tech industries as of June 2018. And Anna is the host of a monthly meetup group called the Kitchener-Waterloo-Cambridge Real Estate Investors Group, or the KWC REI, which I very highly suggest for anybody to go to. They are an awesome group and a wealth of information. They meet on the last Wednesday of each month at the Cambridge Hotel and Conference Center, and their mission is to bring like-minded investors and industry professionals together to provide a forum for real estate education, information, and networking opportunities to broaden investor knowledge and help grow portfolios, which honestly, you guys do a great job. And one thing I admire about you and Doug both is that you guys always come from value and from contribution. And I think that that is a true sign of leadership, especially within this industry. So a bow to you for bringing knowledge to us as you're doing right now, right? So, and actually, one thing that wasn't added in there, and we had just talked about it before this stream went live, is I guess you have a very special announcement that Anna has just recently got her mortgage license. So already, with Mortgage Alliance. So congratulations. That's excellent. It's already somebody with a wealth of knowledge in in RSPs and in the financial sector in itself. It's kind of a perfect fit for you. So it's a very well-rounded way to complete your give the full circle to any clients you work with, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's it was kind of a natural progression. In my all the work that we've done on the KWC REI, growing the number of attendees, number of members as well. It just, a lot of people had come to us saying, I've got some money to lend. We like what you guys have done. How can you help us? Or we've got projects for which we need to borrow money. Can you connect us to private lenders? And then because Doug and I have been doing private lending to this point, and I just wanted to be able to help more people. So if there was funds that were already utilized out in circulation, I'd like to be able to connect people to other private lenders, or to even find institutional lending if the need arises. So that was why I started to do the mortgage agents course.
Oh, I love it. It's funny when I often feel that people who think that when we do the things that we do, there's something completely odd. It almost seems like a gimmick or a scam. It's like too good to be true. And it's funny, once you start doing it and you see the cash flow and you see the money that you can make through real estate appreciation and the business in itself, that's when you can't help but you want to share it with others, because sometimes how is not everybody doing this? It's incredible. So
for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm very excited today because I know you have a presentation right now that you're going to be sharing with us on how to use registered funds to invest in real estate. So I have a couple questions. I've actually never utilized RSPs, nor have I ever worked with a joint venture who's utilized RSPs. So this is going to be a learning curve for me as well. So I'm very, very excited. And I think that a lot of people get something very valuable out of this. So I'm going to give the role over to you and let you take it away. And if there's some clarity or something, we'll kind of have a chat about it as you go along.
Fair enough. Thank you. So you'll see that I just changed the title a bit. I originally had a presentation called How to Use RSPs, and it occurred to me that really any registered funds are eligible to invest in real estate, and a lot of people may not realize that. So I'm really looking forward to sharing my experience with the group. And just real quickly, what I'd like to do is, who am I? Who are Doug and I, as Alex has briefly alluded to? And are you the good Canadian? Have you been saving your way to wealth? I just want to quickly do a registered plan refresher, because I know there's some people who may not even realize or understand what type of registered product they have and what you can do with it. Different types of real estate investments that you can use registered funds. And then for the most part, I want to concentrate the latter part of the presentation on arm's length and non-arm's length mortgages. And I'll explain as we get to that point in the presentation. How to do this. I'm going to go down into the nitty gritty, the very details of how are you going to be able to take advantage of this investing option, and why would you even consider using your registered funds. Other things to think about as well. I just kind of have a little wrap up at the end, as well as for those people who it's not solely for the people with the money, how do you lend that out? But I wanted to share with the prospective borrowers, okay, how do you find the investors? And also all the different links and resources that I've used for this presentation. But first and foremost, I must have a disclaimer to say that, the information being presented is based on my personal experience, my former professional background, which I'll get into in a minute, and also the extensive research I've done on this topic. I've provided links and resources at the end of the slide deck, which I had actually already shared with Alex, and hopefully he'll cascade that out to interested parties.
Absolutely.
I'm not a professional realtor, lawyer, or accountant, but I have recently become a licensed mortgage agent. And of course, each investor's financial and personal circumstances differ. Always, always seek professional advice to help you assess if this is the type of investing, if this type of investing is right for you and matches your risk profile. Okay, so who am I and why am I qualified to speak to this? Well, as Alex said, I retired in June 2018. I worked in the financial services and life insurance industries. I was with Manulife Financial for most of my career, Manulife Bank and Sun Life for a combined total of 33 years. I held senior specialist roles, most recently in Manulife Bank, in corporate compliance, business analysis, process redesign. And in fact, I was the Manulife Bank privacy officer for the last 4 years of my career there. And earlier in my career, I held roles in operational leadership. I had staff reporting to me that processed applications for registered products at both insurance companies. And past roles included training staff on Canadian pension and RSP legislation and procedures. So quite a bit of financial background.
For sure. If I may ask,
sure.
And you might be getting to this already too, what was your and Doug's threshold for okay, when we hit here, this is where we're retiring? What was it that you guys talked about there?
Great question. We started, as you mentioned, investing in real estate in 2015. And we said, what has to happen for us to be able to feel comfortable enough to say goodbye to our day jobs? And with real estate investing, we said, we wanted so many properties within so many years, but more importantly, we wanted to have at least $10,000 a month in real estate related income. So $120K that would supplement our, give us the confidence and the courage to be able to leave our role. We both had Doug was a senior consultant at IBM and in my role. So, we had good paying jobs and such. And we also have a portfolio of non-real estate assets as well, stocks, bonds, things like that. And so we said, combined with everything, we'd like to be able to have the 10 properties within 5 years. Our goal was, could we do it in 5 years by 2020? We wanted to have a certain amount of cash flow from all of those buildings and the income from private lending and other sources as well. So we were well ahead of target, and we were able to say, we can do this. We started assessing our ability to do this back in the fall of 2017. And it wasn't until about April that we gave our notice and said, this is it, we're leaving. So we had done a lot of planning as part of a preparation. while we were still employed, still making really good income, we went to the banks, we refinanced, we increased our HELOCs, we maximized the available capital that we could use, we could have available to be able to do all this. I remember our cottage, we had it refinanced and freed up almost $300,000 of equity, which is what I use for investing and doing private lending in addition to my RSP money.
Mhm.
We also refinanced our private personal residence, and that freed up a lot of capital. So Doug uses that for his private lending that he does. So we were very strategic about, okay, where's the money going to come from? How much are we going to have available to be able to give us that income? And, the funny thing is, so we've been retired 2 years. The year before, the last 3 years of our career, we have made more money in having done real estate than we ever did in our working careers. So
Funny how that works, isn't it?
yeah, with
Yeah.
incomes of over 100,000 a year related to real estate. So it's proof positive. You just got to plan. You got to think, how are you going to do this? Can you do this? But do it.
Yep.
Yeah. So we, as Alex mentioned, I'll just go through this real quickly. Full-time investors, we like to do the passive, because when we started this, we were working stupid hours, 60 plus, 70 plus hours a week, working full-time. And we really had no capacity. That we had lots of equity and income, but not the time. And that's why the JV really appealed to us. We found two couples that we've done exceptionally well with. One couple we have 4 properties with, another couple we have 3 properties with. So we, it was a good match, a good pairing, and we continued to. We just acquired a 4th property with the one couple just last fall. So it's something we want to continue doing as our journey progresses on this
Absolutely.
ride. And as mentioned, I've done several secured and unsecured private lending deals, cash using HELOCs, and a component of our RSPs and TFSAs to do real estate related investments. So I wanted to start off with, and I don't know if we have do we have a Q&A box or a chat box for the audience? Or
We do. There's a post comment section here.
Okay.
Why is your? Yeah, so it should.
Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted to ask some questions of the group, and if there was like a show of hands, or try and make it a little bit interactive as we can, if we can.
Yeah, I think it's more of this is more of like the Facebook Live section. So I'm going to be your audience today. But what we'll do is, if there's any other questions that come up afterwards, because this is kind of going to keep replaying in the background, then we'll make sure that we get them into your hands so that you can help them out.
So I know many people, when they think of RSPs, that it's a long-term savings vehicle and that I'm going to save my way to wealth in early retirement. How many people have RSPs, TFSAs, LIRAs, RSPs, RIPs? Pretty much, I would typically say that most people have, by a show of hands, they've all got their hands up when I ask this question. And how many have experienced low returns, high mutual fund fees, don't understand how to truly maximize the benefit of their plans. And if I could just pause real quickly, as we know, the market has done a tumble in February, March timeframe because of COVID. And interestingly enough, the market has really rebounded in the last few weeks in particular. And so while, yes, we were impacted by this on our conventional RSPs that we have funds, on our self-directed RSPs that I'm going to talk a little bit more about, they've not tumbled at all. Like, they've done exceptionally well. They continue to give high rates of return. So it's though COVID didn't disturb or interrupt the performance of the self-directed plans. And so while our conventional RSPs had gone down a little bit, because of the diversification that we've done in our portfolio, we have been fortunate enough not to have been as highly impacted as perhaps some other people. So you hear about people's RSPs and investments going down 34%, some people 40%, because of what's happened recently in the recovery. Doug and I are within 10% of where we were last December. So we are fortunate enough, and we've done a little bit of strategic planning as well. So we have had some money in cash in readiness for the recession last fall, because we knew a recession is an indication of the GDP if it has negative growth in 2 consecutive quarters, and then government's recently announced we are in a recession. But a couple of the real estate meetup groups that I'm a part of have started saying, well, if we go into a recession, what are you going to do to plan for that? And it was free up capital, because it's going to be like a BOGO sale once we're in a recession. That the people who've planned, who've got the money, who've got the capital available, will be able to swoop in and find these properties and opportunities that others may not have. So we saw that about 6 months ago, and so we freed up some money in our RSPs as well, and for that opportunity, and bonds, and maybe about 60% of our portfolio's equities as well right now. So, and they've all rebounded, and we've got multiple different categories as well. So, but I know many people may not have been that mindful about their portfolios. We go in there pretty much daily to assess and see what's going on. That, and the fact that Doug's recently started doing options trading, so
he's Doug's into that too.
He's into that as well. Yeah.
Is he working with Theta or?
No, he's working with Erwin's new
Erwin, group. Yeah. That's who I started with too, actually. So
yeah. So, and it, yeah. But how many of you would consider lending out these registered funds to earn higher rates of return? And many people usually put their hands up. And how many of you would want to borrow someone else's RSP or TFSA to help you invest in real estate? So then usually the whole room puts their hand up.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to do a really quick refresher on what are various registered plans, because I find that some people think they know them, but they really don't. So RSPs are tax-deferred investment accounts designed for savings towards retirement. They're registered with the federal government. Contributions are made using after-tax dollars. The growth of investments within the RSP are accumulated on a tax-sheltered basis until you withdraw them. Mm-hmm. The idea is to defer paying tax on the growth in the RSP until retirement, at which time, theoretically, your marginal tax rate is lower. Taxpayers contribute to RSPs to reduce the amount of personal income, and therefore the amount of income tax payable, which has been really attractive for higher income earners. Subject, of course, to maximum contribution amounts per year. And you can withdraw at any time, but it is subject to withholding tax. Percentage rates differ based on the amount withdrawn and by the province.
On that note, if you don't mind me asking, because
sure.
it's an interesting thing. In the investment community, we hear a lot about RSPs. Mm-hmm. And there's this underlining like negativity surrounding it within the real estate investing community. And I can kind of see the reason why. And part of it, like Kaylee and I too, like I used to have RSPs when I worked mm-hmm. back at Acon, and I liquidated all of it to put it into real estate. But I guess the theory is that if, by the time I choose to retire and not do anything anymore, at that point, my properties will likely be cash flowing substantially more, and I'll be making a lot more money than I do today. So mm-hmm. It actually would be counterintuitive. Now, I get this for the average person. RSPs are actually great. It's like that forced savings where even if they're not self-directing, they're still making at least a little bit. Mm-hmm. But what would you say to that from like a real estate investor standpoint?
So our RSPs are really great for liquidity and access to capital quickly, because, well, one, you can, provided you have some guidance, some support, maybe you're working with a investment financial advisor, you've got a good advisor, and we've been fortunate, consider ourselves lucky that we have probably between 9 and 11% per year average growth in our investments over the 20 plus years we've been with our advisor. So we've had high average rates of return. We had to have something that we didn't pay extra tax every year because our income levels were so high. It does allow us to grow tax-free, and hopefully down the road, when our income levels were lower, as I said, we've been retired now and our incomes are highest than they've ever been. So we need something to continue to allow us to defer, or so we've stopped contributing to RSPs, by the way, but I do have my self-directed RSP, which is invested in real estate, and my conventional RSP. And now that I'm retired, those are the funds that I'm going to start withdrawing from to live on for day-to-day expenses. So I can easily convert, sell off some stock, convert a bond, what have you, if I need immediate capital to do whatever. And that's, at this stage in our journey, is what we want to have available to us. And So we can withdraw the amounts, pay a lower. You can do in $5,000 increments. At up to 5,000, it's 10% tax. 5,001 to 15, it's 20% tax, and anything over 15,001 is 30% tax. So if any time, and I'm now starting to pay tax in installments too. But if any time I want to just be able to pay my next installment, I can withdraw. But I live off of the cash flow. I live off of the interest income from real estate. So
Yeah.
it's a nice buffer, I guess, to say to have that, and it continues to earn a great rate of return in the interim.
Sweet.
Yeah. So RIFs are funds accumulated in RSP that are transferred to a registered retirement income fund before or by the end of the calendar year, which a taxpayer turns 71 years of age. You have to transfer it to a RIF if you haven't already depleted it. Following the year in which the RIF is created, the account owner is required to take a minimum withdrawal each year as determined by CRA. And the RIF is subject to withholding tax. You cannot contribute to a RIF. Plan is intended to provide income to you to age 90. There's no withdrawal limit. If larger withdrawals are made, you can deplete the fund sooner than 90. But it is subject to withholding tax, right? TFSAs, tax-free savings accounts, were first introduced in 2009. It's a registered savings vehicle that allows eligible Canadian residents to earn investment income tax-free. Do you have a TFSA, Alex?
I do.
Good. Have you maxed it out?
Sorry?
Have you maxed it out?
No, actually, we haven't. We've got a couple $1,000 sitting in there. We haven't really. This is why I'm actually so interested in this presentation. To be honest with you, because I think that this is this untapped strategy that we've been thinking a lot about, but it's there, it's ready for us.
Yeah, contributions are not deductible for tax purposes. And you are subject to a maximum contribution amount per year, and $6,000 this year. Withdrawals are not taxable. However, you cannot recontribute the amount withdrawn in the same calendar year. You must wait until the next year, and you add that to that year's limit. Okay, and it allows for one or multiple lump sum contributions to the plan, such that the amount contributed does not exceed the total of all annual limits for past years. So currently, if you didn't have a TFSA and you want to open one up, the government allows you to play catch up, and you can do a single dump per person of $69,500. So if a couple each had like just under $70K, you could put $140K right now, $139,805, and into a self-direct, or rather a TFSA right now, and then starting next year, you're limited to the yearly maximum every year thereafter. One of the things is Doug and I have tried to max our TFSA contributions every year, and the investment types that products that we've invested in, my TFSA is actually currently just sitting at just under $95,000. So knowing that if the 69.5, but I've actually been able to have it grow by another 20, almost $20,000 because of the other investments that I've added in. So RESPs, of course, we know are savings plans designed to help parents save for their child's post-secondary education. It's eligible for the Canadian Education Savings Grant, provides tax-deferred income for the future. A LIRA is a locked-in retirement account. These are funds from a company or government pension plan. The account is usually created upon termination of employment if prior to normal retirement age. Contributions can neither be made to the LIRA nor can withdrawals be requested. And funds are locked in until a certain age based on the province and intended to be used to provide an income at retirement. Some provinces allow exceptions to the locked-in rules and may be withdrawn in cash in hardship situations or if the amount is less than a prescribed minimum. But the intent is, the rules differ based on the legislation, but the intent is to provide you with an income, again, to age 90. And this is lastly, there's the LIF or the LREF, locked-in retirement account, which are funds converted from a LIRA after a certain age. So if you convert it before 71, it's a LIF. If it's after 71, it's an LREF. Allows you to start receiving income from the pension funds as early as 55, depending on the province. It's subject, though, to a minimum and or maximum withdrawal amount. So you have like a range that it allowed you to only withdraw from that, and it's between 4 and 6%. It's a piddly amount. It's subject to withholding tax if greater than the minimum was withdrawn. And again, intended to provide income to 90. And did you know within the first 60 days of opening up a lift, you can actually unlock and transfer up to 50% of it to an RSP?
So what
Which
would
is
be,
what I did.
where would someone want to use a locked-in retirement income fund for it?
So an LIRA or an LRIF, actually, which is a nice segue in. So right now you have the ability to put those types or invest in most of the Schedule A or Schedule 1 Class A, Class B banks have these products available, and usually you would invest them in proprietary funds, mutual funds, or what have you, right? But what you may not realize is that all of these plan types are eligible to invest in real estate. And so instead of putting it into a mutual fund with TD, you could put it into a mortgage with through self-directed mortgage on an individual borrower's property, right? Or you could do a REIT. There are public and private REITs, real estate investment trusts. These are shares in a fund that invest in real estate, like larger apartment buildings, commercial mixed-use properties. You effectively, as I said, buy shares. So I have a private REIT that I'm a part of, and they have bought multiple, 30 plus, 50 plus unit buildings. And I have that actually in my self-directed TFSA. And so I bought so many, I had an initial contribution that bought so many shares, and each month they pay out distributions, but instead of taking the distributions, I can buy more shares at a discount. So my number of shares that I'm getting in the REIT is continuing to grow. So in February 2018, I put in about $16,000, and my REIT is currently worth just under 20. And I have not done any more investing. Those are the shares buying the distributions, just buying more shares. Mm-hmm. And the share price has actually gone up twice in the REIT. Mortgage investment corps or MICs, where you buy your investment or your contribution is pooled with other investors' capital, and the MIC invests multiple people's capital in projects. So you again have shares in the MIC. You don't have any control though where the MIC invests those funds, but they can do large, venture capital type of investments, big buildings, big construction projects, things like that. But you get a share that's commensurate with the amount of how many shares your contribution is invested in a single project. And then he gets interest payments every month, and he's going to get also a bonus at the back end, and they're supposed to be paying him back this month, in fact. Arm's length mortgages are a private lending transaction between two or more parties that are not related by blood, marriage, or adoption. So it's kind of an odd term, but if you think of it arm's length, that's someone who's outside of your arm's length, on the other side of your arm. And then non-arm's length mortgages, these are people who are closer to you. These are private lending transactions between two or more parties that are related by blood, marriage, or adoption. And this includes yourself. So I wanted to just reiterate, pause for a quick moment to say, these are all legal. These are all, you can absolutely invest in all these. We've actually done these ourselves. I've done arm's length mortgages. Doug's done syndicated mortgages. I've done the REITs. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about the non-arm's length as well, but people just don't realize, if you were to just do Google investments that you can put into a self-directed account, you would be amazed at what you can buy, like gold and silver, and really they're intended to be available for the more sophisticated investor.
Yep.
But the reality is, when it comes to mortgages, it's very straightforward. It's very simple. So, and that's what I'm here to share with everybody. So arm's length mortgages, as we said, are people that you don't know and not related to you by blood, marriage, or adoption. But did you know that you can loan your mortgage, your RSP money, for example, on a purchase or refi? It's private lender and private borrower set and agree to an interest rate in terms of the mortgage. Interest rates can be anywhere from 3 to 30%. And borrower pays all the costs associated with the mortgage. The bank draft, the bank wire, the appraisal, the mortgage setup, ongoing admin costs, broker fees, mortgage discharge fees, lender's legal fees, any and all costs associated with setting up this mortgage are borne by the borrower. All mortgage payments are made to the lender's account. They must have at least one annual payment at the minimum interest rate. You can be in first, second, or third position. It's not insured. There's no CMHC fee. It's up to 100% loan to value, up to 30-year amortization, and renewable for another like term. You could do another renewal after the end of 30 years for another 30-year term. Can be one or multiple RSPs or a combination of registered plans to form one syndicated group mortgage. You can be placed on a Canadian, it has to be Canadian, residential, commercial, industrial, recreational properties, as well as raw land. And you can lend to a corporation. So these are amazing that not a lot of people know that you can do all this with your registered funds. I just wanted to make sure I hit home on this point. To use your RSP, it has to be in a mortgage only. Okay, so that is, but if you have,
so it has to be secured on the property.
It has to be secured. Yes.
Gotcha. So you can't do like an unsecured loan of any sort, or like a
with an RSP. No, correct. So non-arm's length mortgages. So you can lend to yourself, siblings, parents, and children. It's up to $1 million purchase price, and you can finance even multi-units. You can do 95% loan to value for 1 or 2 units, 90% loan to value for 3 to 4 units, up to a 4-plex, but 1 unit must be owner occupied. So remember, it's a non-arm's length mortgage, and either yourself or your family member must live in one of those units.
And so just to reiterate there, just to clarify, for example, let's say a first-time home buyer is looking to purchase a home and maybe wants to house hack it, or wants to find a way that they can get into home ownership, because we all know how challenging that can be with the climate of the real estate market right now. They can actually approach their parents, maybe cut them in on the deal somehow, and say, listen, you know, if you fund the mortgage here and that person ends up living in the home, they can actually contribute.
You can. On subsequent slides, I'm going to show you why that may not be a good thing.
Okay.
And I'll explain in a bit more detail. So it's the same sort of idea in terms of the property value. If it's less than or equal to 500K, you can do 5% down. Property value between up to $1 million is 5 down payment on the first 500, and then it's 10% difference on the 10% down payment on the difference. The interest rate must be within 1% of Bank of Canada's posted 5-year benchmark rate, which I happened to check about an hour ago. It's 5.04%. So the interest rate must be at a minimum 4%, right? If you were to charge yourself a mortgage. So the sticky thing is you have to qualify like a regular mortgage, and it's done by a third-party administrator trustee. So same income verification requirements and approval processes. There has to be insured by CMHC or Genworth, regardless of the LTV ratio. And the fees range from 0.6 to 4% based on the LTV. So the lower the ratio, the lower the fee. The insurance premium is paid at the time of closing or added to the mortgage, which is the same as, an insured mortgage. Max 25-year AM, first and second mortgages only. Okay. So are we ready for the process?
Yeah.
How do we do this? So regardless of the fact that this is registered money or RSP money, you still need to do the appropriate due diligence, right? So you need to research and evaluate the property being financed. Is it a good deal? You go through the numbers, you obtain full MLS information sheet if it's available, compare the purchase price to the ARV value, research the borrower, obtain a credit report. What other investments have they done? What other prior experience do they have? Are they holding other properties currently? What is their total exposure, loan exposure? What are the current projects do they have? Their personal finances. You want to get a personal guarantee against all other investments or assets held personally or corporately. How are they going to pay back? All that good stuff, right? So you still need to do your due diligence on the borrower to know that it's a good deal, regardless of whether it's registered funds or not.
Yeah.
And are you the only lender? Are you in first position, second position? What's the combined loan to value being borrowed of all lenders? And you assess the risk, you finalize the interest rates, you determine fees to charge, and you negotiate conditions in terms of the mortgage. So that, again, is no different whether the source of funds is registered or not. I've just hit on some high-level targets here, bullets here. There is certainly a lot more to doing your due diligence when you're assessing a property that you want to lend on. and this is a good for people who want to attract prospective lenders as well. This is stuff you should have available and ready to share with your prospective lender, so that they know that you know what you're talking about, that you know what you're doing, right?
Totally. We call it a credibility package.
A credibility package, absolutely.
Our lenders shows our deals, and absolutely.
So then once that has all been determined and it's a go, you guys are ready to do this, the borrower should provide you with a certified appraisal done on the property to ensure it's worth, of course, more than the amount being borrowed. But the appraisal should be issued in your name. So on a recent private mortgage that I did, I actually held the first and the second position mortgage, but because my first position was registered funds and the second position I used HELOC funds. And so because I was funding the full property, I insisted on having the appraisal issued in my name to me, so that the appraisal company, I knew it was valid and that they have a degree of responsibility to ensure that this is correct, this is the current market conditions, this is their assessment of the value of the property. Mm-hmm. Then I make sure there's appropriate title, fire, property insurance on the property, and for the latter, that I am the benefit payee of any proceeds that will cover at least the value of the mortgage, not the full value of the property, of course, but just so that I'm covered in the event of any unforeseen issues. Determine if your registered funds are currently in a self-directed account that allows for direction to real estate investments. I know many people have said, "Oh, I have a TD self-directed." Well, the banks have stepped away from doing this type of investments, and self-directed in the TD's eyes is you are directing where your investments are going. It's not a true self-directed plan in that it's a different classification that allows you to invest in real estate.
They're directing it within their bucket.
Within their bucket, their proprietary funds they're offering. So if not, you need to find an institution or self-directed administrator that will allow you to set up the plan that you will want to use. And if you just, again, do a Google self-directed plan administrators, they're usually trust companies, and find one. There aren't a lot of them, but
off the top of your head, would you be able to just name a few that people could lean towards?
I deal exclusively with Olympia Trust, and just so you know, Olympia only handles some. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but they handle. Oh my gosh, I'm a brain fart at the moment here. But they only handle certain types of mortgage products. So non-arm's length. They don't handle non-arm's length. Thank you. There it is. They only handle arm's length mortgages at that institution. So depending on what you want to do, but. And sorry, there are other ones. There's Community Trust as well, but and Western Trust. Interestingly enough, many of them are out in Western Canada too. Now that I think about it, but yeah,
you're typically dealing with like a representative within an Olympia Trust, who
correct.
A lot of them are also like could guide people and help, because I feel like a lot of it could be overwhelming to the average person. They're like, okay, do I need as you're saying, the appraisal, fire, property insurance, appropriate title, these kind of things. The average person may miss one or whatever, but I guess someone who you're dealing with at Olympia Trust actually guides you and coaches you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. If you go onto Olympia Trust private mortgages, RSP mortgages, they have a phenomenal amount of resource material that they've published on their site, checklists, and they are just very organized and very meticulous. And they take the worry or the thought out of the whole process. They made it very, very easy. That and I'll talk on the next slide about a really good real estate lawyer. They're worth their weight in gold. They all know exactly what they're doing. They work with the trust companies already. So, yeah. But if I could just finish here, that once established, you do not collapse your registered plan. You do not collapse your registered plan. Do not withdraw any money out of the plan. You simply are liquidating the existing investments and you're moving it to a cash position. So in your TD plan or in your Scotia plan, you simply transfer, liquidate, sell the assets, and you may incur charges or fees as a result of selling those off, but it just needs to sit in cash in that plan. Be prepared. Sorry, go ahead.
A little warning to some people. we didn't have it with an RSP, but we had it with a line of credit that we had. We had a HELOC secured to a property that we ended up selling, and they closed our RSP or our HELOC.
Wow.
And it was a big mess because we were in the process of closing on another deal that we needed that HELOC amount for. So anyway, lo and behold, Scotiabank was in a massive panic because they didn't get permission from anybody to close it. They just made an assumption. So I've never had a HELOC for that amount of money open up so fast. It was very impressive.
Wow. That's good. I just wanted to mention on point number 5 that be prepared for your financial advisor or whomever you're working with to, they'll be notified of your intent to, and you may have to go through them to actually liquidate the assets, but they'll ask you a bunch of questions. I mean, in fairness to them, they want to make sure that you're not a victim of a Ponzi scheme, or you're not, going to go out and buy a car or something that, or no, well, something that like a boat or something big that this is intended for you to last for retirement. They may give you a little bit of pushback. At the end of the day, this is your money, provided you've done items 1 and 2 really well. You've vetted the property, you've vetted the deal, you've vetted the borrower. That's all that work up front should give you the confidence to then go in and say, yes, I'm going to sell off a portion of these funds to be able to move it to another investment vehicle. Okay. So then the self-directed administrator will initiate the transfer of the existing registered funds held in cash to your new self-directed plan. And I want to emphasize that you want the trustee to initiate that and not you going to Scotia saying, please move this over to whomever your carrier is, Olympia, for example. In the industry, and I know as having worked with Manulife Bank, there is an expectation that institution-to-institution transfers need to be processed within 21 days. So they track and monitor service standards and service turnaround times. If you go directly to your institution, they may dilly-dally. They could take weeks, they could take months to move your money to your self-directed plan. Until you have that administrator initiated, then things happen. Work with an experienced real estate lawyer to draft the mortgage documents that outline the terms, the cost of borrowing, other clauses, whatever you've negotiated with your borrower. They'll do the title search, they register the mortgage and a lien on the property as well. If more than $50,000 rather is being loaned, each party needs an independent lawyer for both the lender and the borrower. So that is kind of the threshold that you'll have to sign off on. You each sought and got independent legal advice as well. Your lawyer will work with the trust company and the borrower's lawyer to ensure paperwork is obtained, signed, and the mortgage set up. Just an FYI while I'm thinking about it, to have a self-directed RSP account with Olympia, it's about the same price going for most companies. It's $150 a year administration cost just to set up the plan. To set up a mortgage, it's another $150 just to set up the mortgage. And there's an additional $15 a month administration fee. So you factor that into, again, because the borrower is going to pay all that, you factor that into potentially a loan fee or an origination fee or some sort of fee you're going to charge your borrower to say, on an ongoing basis. Now, you wouldn't charge them to set up the RSP account. That's your cost. But to set up the mortgage, the $150 plus the $15 a month, that you need to factor that into your costs and how are they going to pay you back, that type of thing.
That's a case of beer every 3 months right there.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss that.
You provide a bank draft to your lawyer, who then sends it to the borrower's lawyer. The trust company registers the mortgage in your self-directed account, but the actual check goes to the borrower, who uses it then for their property, their project. So the borrower makes the payments. Oh, sorry, let me just back up then. So there's a whole bunch of paperwork that's signed, and you just go into your lawyer's office. The borrower will go to their lawyer's office. Paperwork is all exchanged. All this registration happens. You get a nice little bundle of package that is sent to you probably a couple of weeks after you've given over the money. But it is all formal and legal, and it is secured against property. So the borrower makes payments into the self-directed RSP, minimum of 1 interest payment per year. For example, you could do, typically it's a 1 to 3 year term. After you've lent them the money, so I'm thinking again from the lender's perspective, you don't invest and walk away. You maintain regular communications with your borrower. You get routine updates. That, again, would have been determined right at the outset as part of your due diligence and your expectations, how you've negotiated the loan and mortgage, how it's going to look. Because you want to make sure maybe you can do drive-bys, maybe you can pick up the phone and get an update from them. But this is you investing, creating a relationship with them. You're helping them to achieve their goals. They're helping you to achieve your goal of getting double-digit plus rates of return on your money. Maintain that relationship. So then on or before the end of the term, the borrower will indicate they're ready to pay out the mortgage. The trust company will generate a payout statement, send that to you for approval. The payout statement goes to the borrower's lawyer. So it's got the principal plus any accumulated interest. The return and it'll be deposited to your account. The lawyer then arranges for the discharge of the mortgage, removal of the lien, and the trust company closes the mortgage in your self-directed account. So there's a lot more, but this at a very high level is the end-to-end process from the time you start the conversation to when you've paid out and you're ready to start this process all over again.
No, it's great.
So do you have any questions about, I know I've gone through this somewhat quickly, but any points that weren't clear?
Well, is there any limitations on a return that somebody who's lending can make?
So max 30%. We have usury laws that prevent you from charging more than that.
But theoretically, so is it always a fixed interest rate return?
No. So I'm going to share with you how creative you can be with this. So first of all, why would you want to consider using somebody else's RSP money? Availability funds. The market value of RSP funds in Canada is 1.4 trillion and over 2.3 billion in TFSAs right now. There's a ton of money out there available. Simple and straightforward process it's really between the private lender, the private borrower, the trust company, and their one or more lawyers, each other's lawyers. There's no qualification required with arm's length, and there's no stress test. Okay? Same security that the banks get within your RSP portfolio or any other registered account in Canada. So similar to, it's a recognized, legitimate, legal investment option, investment product in that plan. Borrower pays all the costs, makes regular payments to you, to your registered plan that accumulate in cash for you to reinvest in other investments. It's secured against a physical asset. So you have the same rights and privileges as a bank. In the event of default, you can begin power of sale proceedings and take over the property, recapture the investment to sell or hold in your own portfolio. I won't say too much more about that. Power of sale proceedings, there are some formal processes about that. But I want to stress that if you do the appropriate due diligence right at the beginning, you should never come to a point where they've had to default and you have to start power of sale. You need to do your due diligence, credit reports, credit searches, make sure they are able to fund and support this loan. Because at the end of the day, you want to help each other out, right? It's a win-win. And you don't want to necessarily acquire this property because of their mismanagement or inability to do this correctly. So you don't want to get to power of sale, but it is within your right to initiate those proceedings. So to your earlier comment there, Alex, terms can be creative or as flexible as needed. You can defer monthly payments to maturity. Let's say you can do an 8-month mortgage and to finance a reno, for example. Maybe it's a second position mortgage after the bank's first position. And you could say, because most people, it's RSP money, they're not looking for interest payments. So the one mortgage that I did recently, the registered plan, he didn't pay me any interest until the 1-year anniversary. And then on the second position mortgage, he just gave me a small amount because I borrowed that money. Mm-hmm. And so it was 14%, but he paid me 7% per month to be able to help me pay the line of credit interest. And then there was a small amount I kept as well for myself. But then he made large interest payments at the back end on the anniversary. And then when we finally closed the mortgage at 15 months total. So I didn't need the funds. I just needed enough to pay for the cost of borrowing in a little bit. So you can set up, let's say, a 4.5-year term, second position with annual interest payments only, but maybe with a cashback provision on closing. You can have first 2 years interest, or let's say it's a 5-year term. You can have first 2 years as interest only, and then a combo of principal and interest from years 3 to 5. You can do a balloon payment at the end when sell or refinance if less than 1 year. The combinations, and you're only limited by your own creativity to what you want to do. There could be origination fee at the beginning, or you could have, maybe there's a certain amount of interest, 10% per month, but then let's say you've got a 5% bonus at the back end. Anything is entirely open to how you want to structure it.
So, for example, like a joint venture could be you're loaning the down payment amount through your RSPs, right, secured to the property. Now, what about the construction funding that a joint venture would typically put in? Would that
you can have, you can similarly have like a builder's type loan that you can have funds advanced incrementally as well. So that is something that I'm considering on my next project, that they want to borrow a certain amount and then they don't need the additional funds until they've completed first phase of their project. And then they'll advance, because then they don't have to keep paying the interest on that money either in that short term. They only borrow what they need for the duration that they need it for, right? So you can set it up that way too.
Now, from a joint venture perspective, when a joint venture is going on title, does that complicate things for them in terms of kind of, as being part owner and lending to themselves kind of thing?
So they would not be able to do that on a joint venture. So
you'd almost have to hold it in the working partner's name, and then maybe change it over afterwards or something like that. When with a simple hold of the mortgage.
Yeah. So the working partner would have to borrow from. Yeah. No, I don't think you can do it because they have interest in the property. So it would have to be the same as like an arm's length mortgage. And I'm just going to go in the next couple slides as to why you don't want to do that.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, all right.
The time, we've got about 10 or so minutes left.
Okay, all right. So one of the other benefits is increased ROI because you're using other people's money. Principal and interest calcs are the same as with any regular mortgage. Borrowers are willing to pay 8 to 16% or more to get access to money they need, so it's win-win. It's locked in under contract at an interest rate you choose, providing a fixed income stream monthly. So you can plan. You know you're going to get this amount per month, right? It gives you the power to more accurately forecast your retirement income, and it's less volatile than index or ETF funds. There's no MERs, management expense ratio charges, sales charges, or brokerage commissions. So that, for those of us who have been impacted negatively by the recent market conditions, that may be a consideration for you to say, wow, I won't be impacted by fees. Like those mutual funds that you have, even though the market plummeted, they're still going to deduct fees, even though your value has diminished, right? So there is nothing of that sort here in a registered plan using your registered funds. So here are the non-arm's length why you may not want to consider it. So while the CRA does not prevent you from holding a commercial property mortgage or rental property in RSP, the fees involved if doing a non-arm's length mortgage are paid for by you. So remember I talked about all those fees the borrower pays? You're borrowing your own money. You have to pay the appraisal fee. You have to pay the legal. You have to pay up the setup and monthly costs. You have to create the self-directed account. You have to pay CMHC. Assess how much you wish to invest of your registered funds. So if you're just wanting to maybe borrow $50K, it may not be worth the cost and the time to set up a small mortgage. Payments made into an RSP are not considered RSP contributions. Just like a regular mortgage, the borrower cannot miss payments, including when you are both the borrower and the lender. Okay? And the trustee holding the mortgage is responsible for initiating foreclosure if payments are not kept up. Can you imagine if you defaulted on your own mortgage because it was your own borrowed funds? They would have to foreclose. And they basically would collapse the RSP to be able to pay you back.
Black hole.
Yeah. So do the math. It may not be as good an idea to hold your own mortgage in your RSP because remember you have to have within 1% of the Bank of Canada 5-year fixed. So it's like borrowing 5%, investing at 5%. Then you have to pay CMHC on top of that. So at the end of the day, it's costlier to borrow your own funds. Unfortunately, because it has to be what they call reasonably marketable, viable. Like it has to, you can't give yourself a really dirt cheap interest rate, and like it has to be as though you secured it through other professional lenders. You may want to consider getting a conventional mortgage at a lower interest rate, lend out your RSP funds to someone else, arm's length, to get the 8 or 10% to invest in a syndicated mortgage or a diversified pool like a MIC. For both arm's length and non-arm's length, assess how important liquidity is to you and ease of convertibility of your registered assets to cash. Because remember, and I've heard of people who say, oh, I'm just going to put all of my RSP funds into a mortgage. And I said, well, it's locked in for that duration. What happens if, there's illness or something where you need to access capital? So be very mindful about how much you want to put into an ease of convertibility and liquidity if you need that capital for another reason, right? So where do you find the investors? Well, first and foremost, investment groups and clubs like GHAIN and KWC REI.
Yeah.
But as a general rule of raising private capital, you can't openly advertise. You need to have a relationship with your prospective lenders. Otherwise, you need to do a compliance review, determine if they're accredited versus eligible investors. You have to follow the rules put forth by the Canadian Securities Commission. What I like to do is I have a database of people that I record when I've met them, how I know them. I've collected a business card. I regularly go out and talk to them and say, well, how are you doing? What are you investing in now? Or how's your real estate portfolio growing? I have this database of all these times. So if they become, I'm a lender to them, or if ever I got audited, CRA came calling, and I could say, I have known this person. I document when I met them, how I know them, all the interactions that I have with them. So, but I also want to make sure I'm not taking their last $50,000 or $100,000 if I'm going to be a borrower, right? Or that they're not taking all of my savings. I would never, if I only had $50K in an RSP, unfortunately, I would not want to lend that out. I don't think you should lend it out if it's only your last $50K, because often, and the unfortunate thing is, people with the lowest amount of money are the ones that are more careful and more worried about losing it, right? And so if I wanted to invest in one of your projects, right, you wouldn't want to take someone's last $50K and then they're on your tail continually wanting updates and reports. How is this coming along? When can I expect my money?
Careful about that for sure.
Yeah. So while you can start with going to mortgage agents or brokers, but once you've done a few, you can actually go directly to the private lender and maybe negotiate a better deal, offer better rates of return on your investment. You'll get a little bit more practice and a little bit more comfort and confidence, right? Make a list of people you know, classify them into close friends, family, other family, friends, colleagues, anyone else. Begin by having simple conversation, treating them to coffee. Ask them, how's your RSP portfolio doing? Were you hit by the market downturn? And just, unfortunately, there's still this stigma around talking about money, but the more you are open about it, it does become easier. And wouldn't it be great if you could earn maybe double-digit rates of return? Be persistent. Listen to body language and such. And if they're not really interested, then you stop the conversation. But then you talk about it.
There's brilliant points that you're bringing up, because a lot of people overcomplicate the whole idea, and you'd hit the nail on the head. It's the stigma overall about how are your returns? Is it safe to enter that conversation? What I've always told individuals that are looking to get into joint venturing is that when you're the real estate expert, you have to focus on attracting money. You can't hunt it down. And so I know you've seen it too, the people that go up in front of the room at the investors clubs, and they're like, I just bought a property, I need $500,000. And they're like, the chance of that person getting $500,000 from someone in that room is slim to none.
That's right.
Not to say it hasn't happened, but what I like to focus on, and what I'd always tell people, is that your approach that you've documented here is exactly it. You have a one-on-one conversation. You say, are you happy with the rate of returns that you're making? And if
that's right.
not, would you be interested in hearing what we have to offer?
Right. but recognize that it's going to be more than one conversation. It's going to be multiple. And similar to what really resonated with me when Matthew Frederick spoke at your event last fall, he talked about breaking bread between every interaction. He had like the cycle and 7 steps. And between every step, he said, and then you break bread. You go out to dinner, you chat and you talk, and they get to know you, you get to know them. It's not an immediate. I was at one event one time and this young fellow came up. I spoke at the front of the stage and he said, "Hey, you do private lending?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And he says, "I've got this great opportunity. I want to borrow 40K for 6 months. I'm doing a flip. Great rate of return. I'll pay you 14-15%. What do you say?" I said, "First of all, I don't even know your name. And secondly, no." So, I said, yeah. And I may be old school, but I like to.
It's one of my favorite parts about it too. Like any business, well, but especially I would say in real estate investing, it's a relationship game.
Oh my gosh!
Your network is your net worth at the end of the day, and so. But I personally, it's one of my favorite parts. Like our last joint venture partners, we did a great deal together. We had them over at our place for a nice dinner. We cooked for them. We brought some wine and sat there and for what we thought was going to be like a short and sweet kind of like, okay, by 10 o'clock we're out of there. I think we ended up pulling it out at 2 a.m. in the morning or something like that. So luckily they live close by, but it was just to now you get a feeling for the person. What's their character like? Do I enjoy being around them? And it was a pretty good sign. So you're so right. You're so right.
And first and foremost, you always should. What is your exit strategy? Yes, if only I could raise $50,000-$100,000. But the second question you should ask yourself is, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay that back? And what plan or strategy am I going to use? So what assurances can you give the investor that they will get their money back as well? And then show you're creditworthy. Anticipate what your lender may want from you. So prepare an FAQ, frequently asked question list. Consider all the possibilities. Pretend you're the one with the money that you want to lend out. Would you even lend to yourself? The lender will invest with you and then the project. So I bolded that and put it in red because that is, all things considered equal, if 3 people come to me wanting to borrow money, it's going to be my relationship with that person at the end of the day that decides whether I lend to them. Because if you don't like them, you don't like their style, they may have this amazing credit score. The rate of return on the investment is like 25%. But at the end of the day, you've got this suspicion you don't trust them, or there's other indications. The deal doesn't matter. You're investing with the person.
I always tell joint venture partners that, I can put any property in front of you and any deal in front of you, but at the end of the day, you're investing in me.
That's right.
That's the cold truth. So
yeah. And lastly, always pay back your investors. Always. You build rapport and trust. They'll be eager to reinvest with you as you've proven yourself. And in case in point, we've done multiple deals with our joint venture partners because we have that relationship and we trust them implicitly. So it's proof positive that works. So here are some links and resources that I used in compiling this presentation that you may find helpful. I am a research junkie of having been a former business analyst, but hopefully I've simplified it and extracted the best points from those various sites. I really recommend the RSP Secret. This was Greg Habstritt's book. It was it's very dog-eared. My copy has lots of post-it notes and highlighting, and that one was very, very good. And there's some articles, and just going like Olympia Trust, their sites here are fantastic. So you're welcome to reach out to those. And then lastly, here's my contact information. So as I said, I'm a newly licensed mortgage agent, but I have a lot of private lending, a lot of our real estate investing experience that I will gladly share and impart on anyone who wants to reach out.
Well, Anna, you have taken a topic that I'm sure a lot of people feel very confused and sometimes, lost in, and I think you've done an incredible job simplifying.
Oh, thank you.
No, thank you. And honestly, from like the GHAIN community, thank you for sharing some time with us here, like on a Wednesday evening. But it was very, very good presentation. So I'm actually very excited to learn a little bit more about it. It's something that I think that as we grow within our our own businesses, I think that this is a huge avenue. Like, as you said, what was it, $1.4 trillion?
Yeah, there's a ton of money.
And it's not about just from a selfish standpoint, it's not about just tapping into that money. This is literally a win-win situation. You're providing somebody with a substantially better return for their retirement. And at the same time, they just have to learn the process alongside with you.
I just wanted to leave one last thing. I got two of my mortgages paid out recently. So I invested, as I said, it just was under $230,000. And my borrower paid me back $61,500. I received $32,000 over 15 months. So
how hard did you have to work for that?
The initial documents and going to the bank to get the bank draft, probably less than a day's effort.
There you go. Not bad, eh?
15 months, 32 grand over 15 months.
Yeah. That might be somebody's salary out there for the year, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Well, listen, Anna, thank you so much. Please pass our regards on to Doug as well. I hope he's doing wonderfully. And stay in touch. And guys, if you guys have any questions for Anna, please reach out to us. I believe you're gonna provide us the slide decks as well that we can share with people.
Yeah, I've shared them with you already.
Yep, perfect. So if you guys have any questions at all, obviously, Anna speaks for herself. She's a wealth of knowledge. But thank you once again, and everybody have a great night.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Anna.
Bye.